In the video on the DBE's revised teaching plan, we reminded you about what must be taught with regards to algebra. In a nutshell, the grade 4 to 6s will only do number sentences. Grade 7 learners will need to learn about algebraic expressions and terminology. Grade 7 learners will need to practice determining input and output values as well as equivalent forms, and they should learn how to do basic algebraic equations. It is easy to list what learners should know, but it can be difficult to teach this content. And this is because some children have a real fear about doing algebra. In fact, algebra is one of the most hated or loved topics in the maths curriculum. In this video, we will focus on ways in which you can introduce this topic to your learners so that they are happy to see it as a normal extension of maths and not as something to be feared. When teaching algebra or any maths concept, you should remember to follow the principles of teaching. Begin with what children know and only then move to teaching the unknown content. Begin with concrete examples and only afterwards move to teaching abstract content. Begin with simple problems so that children can build their confidence and only then move to the difficult, complex problems. And then, of course, give children chance to practice. At primary school level, algebra is all about learning to use letters in mathematical sentences to represent unknown numbers. Focus on this when introducing the topic. You can tell learners that algebra is fun. It is just like solving a mystery or a puzzle. So, the first suggestion about teaching algebra is to start with fun games to help children have fun in doing calculations which use placeholders instead of numbers. For example, this game aimed at grade 4 learners shows mushrooms, flowers and stars instead of numbers. Share this with your learners and ask them to insert the correct numbers instead of the placeholders and to solve the equation. Stop the video and see how fast you can work out the answers. Let us see how you fared in this game. Of course, you were able to solve the three sums without any difficulty. The correct answers are: first row, 8 minus 5 plus 2 in brackets equals 1. In the second row, 2 plus 8 in brackets minus 5 equals 5. And in the third row, 8 minus 2 minus 5 equals 1. Here are 3 more games and puzzles which are suitable for your grade 5, 6 and 7 learners. We encourage you to use these games to get your children used to calculating the value of unknown placeholders. We will make all of these games available as worksheets. You will be able to access the worksheets via an on-screen link at the end of this video. We will also provide the answers. Our second suggestion is to constantly remind learners that algebra follows all the rules used for doing normal calculations in maths. Tell your learners that in algebra they will use addition, subtraction, multiplication and division just like they do in normal maths calculations. Tell learners that when they were calculating the value of the rectangle, triangle and diamond in the Energizer game, they were doing some basic algebra. Because in this game, they were calculating the value of the unknown elements. Explain that algebra introduces the unknown number into our calculations. This unknown number is shown by using a letter, very often the letter X. Our third suggestion is to spend time teaching and testing your learners' understanding of the terminology used in algebra. With algebra, the learner is introduced to new vocabulary such as variables, expressions and equations. Learners need to have a good understanding of these terms in order to achieve the set goals in algebra. For example, learners need to understand that a variable is a symbol that stands for an unknown number, and that any letter can be used to represent an unknown number. Learners need to learn the rules about how to use these symbols. For example, within one algebraic problem, the same symbol will always stand for the same value. In this case, the variable x stands for the number 5, as 5 plus 5 equals 10. However, in different equations, the same symbol can stand for different values. Here we know that in problem 1, the variable x represented the number 5, but in problem 2, the x now represents the number 25. Two other terms that you need to make sure your learners understand are algebraic expressions and equations. An expression consists of numbers, variables, and operations, but it does not have an equal sign. An algebraic equation has variables, in this case the letter x, numbers, operations, and an equal sign. You need to show learners that in a basic algebraic equation, the numbers on the one side of the equal sign have the same value as the numbers on the other side, and that what we are doing in algebra is solving the equation to find out the unknown number. Teachers, it is important to show learners the difference between an expression and an equation, as set out in the example on this screen. Use the following exercise to give your learners practice in distinguishing between an expression and an equation. Look at the table and state whether the number sentences are expressions or equations. We can see at a glance that numbers 2 and 3 are equations and the rest are expressions. Our fourth recommendation is that you make sure learners know the three basic laws of algebra: the commutative law, the associative law, and the distributive law. Learners must understand these laws and be able to apply them. It may be useful to supply each learner with a cheat sheet on these laws or to display them in a poster on the classroom wall. The commutative law enables us to check the answer of an addition sum. The commutative law also applies to a multiplication sum where the numbers can be changed around and the product stays the same. It is important to note that subtraction is not commutative. The associative law allows us to add more than two numbers together. Note again that subtraction is not associative. We also make use of the associative law when we multiply two or more numbers by one another. The distributive law can be explained as follows. Multiplication is distributive to the left and to the right over addition. Multiplication is also distributive over subtraction. Division is also distributive over addition and subtraction. Our fifth recommendation about teaching the topic of algebra is that you make sure your learners know the BODMAS rules. Remind learners that BODMAS refers to the order in which operations must be performed and that they need to follow this order so that they can get the correct answer. Please give your learners opportunities to practice solving equations using the BODMAS rules. Teachers, we want to emphasize again that we are all fortunate to be living in a time where excellent teachers across the world have shared their teaching ideas on the internet. And in a time when all South African teachers have been allocated laptops by the Department of Education. We encourage you to use the videos available on YouTube and the teacher websites to get ideas and help to teach the wonderful topic of algebra to your learners. We wish you success and fun in introducing algebra to your learners. We know that this is a challenging topic, but through repeating the basic steps that need to be followed, you will make it possible for your learners to succeed in meeting the set assessment criteria. Let us heed the following advice from our beloved Winnie the Pooh character. It isn't much good having anything exciting if you can't share it with somebody. That is certainly also true about algebra. We trust that you will find the suggestions and techniques shared in this video useful. To assist you with your lessons, we have developed a few worksheets on this topic, which you can access via the links on the next screen. We have also shared links to interesting video clips and other online content to assist you further on this topic. We will now ask you to pause and reflect on the content of this video. On the next screen, we provide a link to a short quiz for you to complete. After completing the quiz, you can move to the next section of the workshop.